Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We are continuing our SEC football predictions today, and our next team had a lackluster season last year, but bring in one of the best head coaches in all of college football and are looking to compete in the SEC West. They are the Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M returned 16 starters, 8 on offense and 8 on defense. On offense, they're led by running back Travion Williams, who had a very impressive 2017 season. Also, Nick Starkel at quarterback, who he split a little time with Kellen Mond, but almost threw for 500 yards in their Belt Bowl loss to Wake Forest. So, despite him having a lackluster 2017 season, he is very experienced and should be able to lead the Aggies to a decent record this season. On the defensive side of the ball, another 8 returning starters, very experienced there. Their defensive line, led by Michael Clemens, contains 3 seniors. So 3 of their 4 defensive linemen are seniors who are very experienced on that defensive side of the ball as well. They inked Jimbo Fisher, by far one of the biggest hires in this college football offseason, to a 10-year, $75 million contract. And as we all know, he had great success at Florida State, winning a national championship there, always competing for the ACC championship. Obviously had a bad season last year, most of that due to injuries. So he's coming into the SEC and looking to really challenge Alabama and try to win the SEC West and get back into the national title conversation that they reached a couple times with Kevin Sumlin, but ended up just petering out towards the end of most of his seasons. So they kick off the season here against Northwestern State. Obviously an easy win here, and this is going to be really good for the Aggies team. It's probably going to be fairly mediocre this season, but it's going to kind of see what they're made of, to see any problems that they need to fix up, anything that Jimbo Fisher wants to correct. I know he's very high on his offensive line, which will be great for Travion Williams, and very high on his defensive line, as I mentioned, with 3 seniors on that side of the ball. So a win here for Northwestern State, and they need to make sure they clean up anything that's wrong because they have a big date with Clemson in Week 2. This will be a very, very fun match to watch. As we all know, Jimbo Fisher, no stranger to Clemson and Dabo Swinney, playing them multiple times in the ACC. And Clemson's coming in with, by far, the best defensive line in all of college football. So with Texas A&M having a solid offensive line, it's going to be very curious to see how that Clemson defensive line is able to rattle Nick Starkel. Can they get enough pressure on him or maybe shut down Travion Williams? That's going to be fun to watch. I think they will be able to generate enough pressure, but that's going to be Clemson's really first big test coming in to College Station. And I'm very excited to see this game. I think in the end, Texas A&M is going to lose this game. I do not think they're going to be very prepared for this Clemson team who's going to have a solid quarterback, whether it's Kelly Bryant or Trevor Lawrence. They're going to have a solid running back in Travis Etienne. So I'm going to give Texas A&M a loss here to Clemson, who is definitely going to be the favorite in the ACC and could very well make another college football playoff appearance. So a very tough matchup here. I think A&M hangs with them for about a half. Clemson pulls away towards the end. A win here against Louisiana Monroe shouldn't be a problem there. And then at Alabama, and this is going to have more storylines, of course, because as we all know, Jimbo Fisher coached under Nick Saban. So as we've seen across the entire college football world, so many coaches stemming from that Nick Saban coaching tree there, and Jimbo Fisher is just another one of them. And of course, he's done very well for himself. But this game being at Bryant-Denny Stadium with the Texas A&M team that, yes, they do have 16 returning starters. Yes, they do have 8 on that side on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. But I just don't see them coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium and giving Alabama much of a fight. I just don't see it happening. We saw Jimbo Fisher's team face off against Alabama last season. Of course, completely different teams, but losing 24-7 in the season opener. I don't think A&M comes in here and gives Alabama much of a fight. I think that Alabama defense is going to break through that offensive line and really, really rattle Nick Starkel. I know that Texas A&M gave Alabama a pretty good fight in College Station last year. I understand that, but I don't think A&M is going to be able to do much on the road. Alabama is a very, very tough place to play. Then they got the annual matchup, the Southwest Classic with Arkansas at Dallas Stadium in Arlington. And Arkansas is on a huge losing streak to Texas A&M. A&M has their number. Arkansas has not beaten the Aggies since 2011 and has not beaten them once since A&M joined the SEC in 2012. So, and I don't expect that to change at all this year. Arkansas bringing in Chad Morris, a new head coach, new coordinators, a defense that struggled so much last year. How much are they going to be able to correct and really be prepared for this early on in the season? They don't really have a quarterback. A&M is much more prepared for this game. I do think it can be close because I think Chad Morris's high-speed offense is going to give A&M a bit of a challenge, but I do not see Arkansas getting the win here against the Aggies in Arlington. That is a win for Texas A&M, and they're 3-2 going into October, which is fairly respectable considering their 2 losses are coming to Clemson and Alabama, 2 teams that made the college football playoff last year and are poised to make it again this year. And then Kentucky at home. And as I mentioned before, I would be more tempted to pick to Kentucky in a couple more games if they still had their quarterback in Steven Johnson. Now, they do have a very, very solid running back in Benny Snell, by far one of the best in the SEC. Very, very hard to take down. Should have another great year here and could break the Kentucky rushing record this season. With it being at College Station, though, I don't see Kentucky coming in here. I expect this to be a defensive battle. Kentucky is going to have a solid defense this year, so you put A&M's defense up against that kind of struggling Kentucky offense, and then Kentucky's defense against an A&M offense. We don't know too much to expect, especially after switching schemes from the Kevin Sumlin era to the Jimbo Fisher era. I expect this game to be low scoring, but the Aggies get the win at home. And then on the road to South Carolina, a team that many think could potentially challenge Georgia in the SEC East, or I should say South Carolina will be Georgia's probably biggest threat in the SEC East. This is on the road at South Carolina, who has one of the best quarterbacks in that division with Jake Bentley. They've returned Deebo Samuel at wide receiver. He had an injury last year. It's on the road. Will Muschamp's going to have his team fired up. By far his best team at South Carolina. I just don't think A&M's going to have the talent to come in here and steal a win on the road. It's going to be a loss for them in Columbia. And then a bye week coming into Mississippi State. And if you can look here, this is going to be the key stretch for Texas A&M for their season. If they want to have a really successful season or a mediocre season getting to a mid-level bowl game, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, at Auburn. 3 straight road games. It does not match up for the Aggies, but if they can steal 1, maybe 2 of these road games, they will be looking in really good shape. And, of course, I wouldn't put anything past Jimbo Fisher. But a bye week going into the road game at Mississippi State, who returned 17 starters, new head coach in Joe Moorhead, but a very, very solid quarterback in Nick Fitzgerald, who I would give the edge to over Nick Starkel. I would also give Mississippi State's defense the edge over Texas A&M as well. Mississippi State, one of the more underrated defensive lines in college football. I've been repeating that, and I'll keep saying it over and over again. I expect big things out of Joe Moorhead's squad this year. I don't think A&M's going to have enough to come in here. Yes, they'll be out for revenge after Mississippi State came into College Station and won last year, but Mississippi State gets the win at home and has a loss for the Aggies. Same thing here at Auburn. Auburn is coming off a bye coming into this game. They're going to be rested. A&M's probably going to be coming off 2 straight losses. Maybe could be getting beat up here at Mississippi State. Auburn probably going to finish second in the West. Could challenge Alabama for that SEC West crown like they did last year. Solid quarterback in Jarrett Stidham. Probably one of the best, if not the best, in the West. And I think this Auburn defense, once again, is one of the better in the nation as well. Auburn should have some of their best wide receivers back as well from injury, assuming they are able to make it back. I wouldn't put anything past Gus Malzahn. I'm excited to see that coaching matchup between Malzahn and Jimbo Fisher, the 2 coaches that met in the 2013 National Championship game. But I'm going to give the win to Auburn here just due to talent, experience, and home field advantage. Ole Miss here at home, back at home, which is huge for Texas A&M. 3 straight road games, finish off the season with 3 straight home games. So that's going to be big for them. Ole Miss, a team that I would expect to have some good numbers up this year. Jordan Ta'amu at quarterback. I would actually give him the edge over Nick Starkel at the quarterback position. But Ole Miss's defense is going to be a huge weakness for them this year. A&M is going to be able to put up enough yards, enough numbers to defeat the Rebels at home. And this game has also had a couple of classic games over the past few years. But I think A&M gets the win at home. Another win at home against UAB, which sets up a season finale against LSU. And A&M's, hasn't had LSU's number. LSU has dominated this series for the most part after being in the SEC, since A&M joined the SEC. I think A&M finally gets a break and defeats LSU this year. And I really do think LSU's going to have a bit of a down year. Things are not looking great for them. Ed Ogeron's going to be on the hot seat. A lot of that contributes to a 9-3 season last year. Also, that home loss to Troy never helped. But I think A&M's going to be able to get the win here against LSU. Truly had Joe Burrow. I would still give the edge, actually, to Nick Starkel over Joe Burrow. I'd also give the slight edge to A&M's defense over LSU's defense, despite that being the Tigers' strength. Home field advantage also contributes to that as well. So A&M and Jimbo Fisher's first year in College Station going a respectable 7-5. Not bad, not great. But obviously a good starting point for Jimbo Fisher, who's trying to get A&M back up into the national title conversation, back up to competing for an SEC West title and an SEC championship. So this is a good starting point. Obviously, you got to just give him a little time. In his first year at Florida State, he did go 10-4. I expect give him 3 or 4 years, and he's going to have A&M in a very, very good position in the SEC West division. But 7-5 for the Texas A&M Aggies for the 2018 season. And as I've been saying, if you haven't checked us out on Twitter yet, go ahead and go follow us there at Gridiron Expert. No the, just at Gridiron Expert. So go follow us there. Follow us on Instagram at The Gridiron Expert as well. Tons of new content up for that. So make sure you go check us out on both of those social media platforms. And as always, here on YouTube, make sure to continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.